In the endless darkness, where light slips through delicate veils of stardust, the universe exhales softly. The golden clouds of Jupiter swirl like gentle brushstrokes on an ancient canvas, layers of gas weaving together in a colossal dance, beautiful, majestic, and silent enough to steal your breath away. Yet behind that brilliance lies quiet decay. Crimson storms twist and churn. Bolts of lightning fall endlessly where light lives with shadow, and everything exists only for a fleeting moment. Then all fades, leaving behind an infinite emptiness, where nothing remains but the distant echoes of wind and dust. In that void, have you ever wondered what keeps a giant planet breathing after billions of years, even when its heart is nothing but haze? Close your eyes and let me lull you away through Jupiter's mist, where the universe's secrets have never stopped whispering. Before time had a name, before stars learned how to burn, the universe was only a whisper. It drifted in endless quiet, wrapped in veils of mist and faint light, a sleeping sea without color, without form. Everything moved so slowly that even silence seemed loud. Space was not yet space. It was a soft cradle of possibilities, an ocean that dreamed of becoming something more. There was no sound, only the gentle hum of existence, the kind you do not hear, but somehow feel. Through that stillness, tiny grains of dust floated like forgotten thoughts. They drifted for ages, untold, brushing against each other, dancing without rhythm, waiting for the moment when chance and time would hold hands. In the endless dusk, a shimmer appeared, faint, trembling, fragile. It was the first glimmer of motion, the universe taking its first slow breath. Then came the meeting of dust and gas. Invisible currents began to swirl soft and patient like the inhale of a sleeping child. Little by little, the mist gathered into folds, and those folds began to spin. From that motion came warmth, and from warmth came light, not yet the blazing fire of stars, but the shy glow of creation, learning to open its eyes. Every swirl carried a secret. Every wisp of cloud hid the seed of a future world. They twirled in silence, bumping gently, as if afraid to disturb the stillness around them. And so, the first sparks of life, not life as we know it, but life in its rawest form, began to gather. From the quiet womb of the cosmos, small worlds were imagined into being. The light was soft like dawn behind a curtain of fog. Shadows folded into one another, shaping the unseen. Within this endless gray, the first outlines of what would become planets began to take form, small, uncertain, but full of promise. The stars were not yet born, but the universe already knew what they would sound like. Somewhere in that ocean of dust, a single grain started to spin faster than the rest. Around it, the mist bent and curved, drawn by an invisible pull, the kind of pull that happens when the universe decides to dream. It was gentle at first, almost unnoticeable, like a sigh lost in eternity. Yet the movement grew subtle, but unstoppable. And so, a shape began to form, not yet a planet, not yet anything we could name, just a rhythm, a heartbeat, a quiet pulse beneath the waves of nothingness. If you could listen closely, you might hear it. The soft turning of dust, the hush of gas, folding upon itself, the slow dance of becoming. The universe did not hurry. It never does. It spun its web of creation, thread by thread, letting gravity hum a lullaby that only the dust could understand. Around the forming heart, clouds stretched and twisted, painting soft spirals across the void. It was not chaos, it was a pattern so delicate, so vast that only patience could reveal it. Moi, the Gyoe Jutong Chila Buya voice might whisper every world, was once only dust drifting through darkness, and from that dust, wonder was born. The quiet grew warmer, the mist denser. Particles clung to one another, holding tight as if afraid to let go. In their embrace, something ancient stirred the will to exist. Light seeped through the fog, scattering gold across the newborn waves of matter. What once was emptiness began to shimmer with color. The universe blinked for the very first time. Through the slow pulse of creation, a tiny speck smaller than memory, lighter than thought, began to spin. Faster, brighter, alive. That speck would grow. It would gather clouds and fire, wind and storm. It would hold within it the memory of its birth, that first whisper, that first breath of existence. It would one day become a world of endless winds and golden storms, a giant wrapped in mystery. But now, it was only a beginning. A single seed floating in the dark, humming softly to the rhythm of eternity. The other clouds watched in silence, their edges shimmering like candle smoke. Some drifted apart, destined to become other worlds. Some faded, swallowed back into the sea of stars. But this one refused to fade. Its motion deepened, its gravity grew stronger, and its warmth began to spread. It was as if the universe itself had chosen this spot to keep a secret through the quiet time, past slow, patient, unseen. What once was mist became a whirlpool of gold. The small heartbeat turned into a steady drum, echoing faintly through the void. It was not loud, but it was constant, the first rhythm of a world that would one day shake the heavens. And if you could drift close enough, if you could float between those newborn currents, you might see it, a faint glow, the soft shimmer of something about to be born. Jupiter was still nameless, then just a dream forming beneath layers of light. But it was there waiting to grow, waiting to learn how to shine without fire. In that endless silence, the mist folded once more. The first breath of Jupiter began long, slow, and full of wonder. The universe listened, and for a moment it smiled. And as the glow deepened, something else stirred in the distance. Another cloud, another swirl of dust, and light answered softly, a response to Jupiter's newborn hum. The story of creation was spreading one whisper at a time, and so the universe kept breathing. From that first breath, the warmth began to gather. The dust no longer floated alone, it reached for the light, clinging to every flicker it could find. The air thickened, the glow deepened, and somewhere inside that growing storm, the first hint of heat was born. The quiet mist that once drifted aimlessly began to tremble with life. Soon the cold would give way to warmth, and the child of the stars would take its first real shape. The mist had grown thicker now. What was once only a whisper of gas and silence had begun to glow faintly, as if the universe had lit a candle somewhere deep within its own breath. Dust drifted through the dim light, like snow falling in a slow motion, each grain a fragile secret, ancient and weightless, gliding through eternity. When they touched, it was never with force, but with the gentleness of feathers brushing in the dark. One by one, they began to cling to each other, as though loneliness itself had taught them how to hold on. In that endless stillness, collisions became conversations, quiet, patient, full of longing. The tiny specks gathered layer by layer, folding into a shape that wasn't yet a world, but something that could one day dream of being one. The warmth that filled the space wasn't heat as we know it, but a tender pulse, a hush between two heartbeats of creation. Every new bond was a spark of comfort, like embers forming beneath unseen hands. The light shimmered softly, spreading across the cloud. It wasn't bright. It didn't need to be. It was enough to remind the universe that something was happening here. A small act of becoming hidden in the quiet fabric of the stars. Jupiter, still nameless, still shapeless, floated in that cradle of dust and light like a single note in a cosmic lullaby. Each grain carried a memory, a trace of stars that had burned long ago and vanished, leaving behind their ashes for new worlds to borrow. In their reunion, there was warmth, not fire, not flame, but something deeper, the warmth of belonging, the warmth of matter, remembering what it was made for. The dust began to weave itself together more tightly, not out of power, but out of patience. Every small particle found its place in the rhythm, drawn by a pull older than time. They circled one another, softly, endlessly, their dance so slow that it could only be seen in the silence between centuries. Around them, the dark was still vast, unbroken, unchanging. Yet in that dark, a flicker began to rise. Like the faint glow before dawn, it spread through the cloud, wrapping the young swirl in a halo of pale gold. The universe leaned closer, curious. Inside the swirl, something was taking shape, though it could not yet be seen. The grains pressed closer, whispering secrets of stars gone before them, holding the faintest echo of light in their fragile bodies. They did not know what they were building. They only knew how to gather, how to turn, how to wait. And so they waited. Time passed in silence, but creation does not need hurry. Each moment folded into the next, and the swirl thickened. It trembled like a heartbeat beneath a thin skin of shadow. Jupiter, still just a dream, began to pulse faintly within the mist. It wasn't light, not yet, just motion, slow and tender, a rhythm that promised life in some distant future. Outside, the darkness pressed gently against it, like a blanket drawn around a sleeping child. The universe held its breath. Within that stillness, dust met dust, cloud met cloud. Tiny flashes of warmth bloomed wherever they touched, invisible fires lighting the cradle of a planet not yet born. There was a kindness in the way it all unfolded. Nothing rushed, nothing demanded. Even in the collisions there was grace. The grains fell together like snowflakes landing on water, melting into one another without resistance. Every touch softened the edges of what was once separate. The world to be learned to grow by surrendering, by blending, by becoming one with what surrounded it. The more it gathered, the brighter the center became. The faint shimmer of light deepened, glowing from within, like the heartbeat of a sleeping ember. It was not fire, but it felt alive. The air, if there had been air, would have hummed with warmth. The dust no longer drifted aimlessly. It moved with quiet purpose. The young Jupiter was still fragile, still nameless, but already it carried the calm confidence of something chosen. The warmth spread outward, touching the edges of the mist, tracing faint circles in the void. The rhythm of creation quickened, still slow to any mortal measure, but faster than before. The swirl became a storm of whispers, a soft spiral pulling everything toward its heart. It was no longer just dust. It was a Around it, other clouds drifted by, watching from afar. Some followed their own paths, forming small flickers of light. Others dissolved quietly into the dark. But this one kept growing. The warmth at its center deepened until the surrounding mist began to shimmer like silk beneath moonlight. It was delicate, alive, and filled with an unspoken determination. The universe itself seemed to pause, listening. The hum of creation resonated like a note struck in a cathedral made of stars. The swirl that would one day be Jupiter moved with the rhythm of a song only the cosmos could hear. If silence had a heartbeat, it would sound like this. Every world before it is born is a story written in dust. Every spark before it glows is a sigh in the dark. And now that sigh grew deeper. The dust cloud that had been so patient for so long began to tremble. It had learned how to hold. Now it would learn how to breathe. The faint glow at its heart flickered, then steadied. Around it, light curled like soft smoke, folding in and out as if inhaling. The cradle of dust exhaled, and for the first time the universe felt its breath. A hush swept across the void. The small swirl, fragile yet infinite, had come alive. One day, not today, not tomorrow, but someday that glow would grow fierce. It would pull storms from nothingness and carve winds that never sleep. But for now, it was enough to shine softly, to simply exist. And in the quiet, the dust sighed a long, slow exhale and began to draw the light toward itself. And somewhere deep within that golden storm, a heartbeat began to echo, slow, steady, immense. The giant was waking, and the universe held its breath once more. The silence did not end. It only began to move. What was once a soft glow of dust and warmth now trembled with purpose, gathering strength from every breath of the surrounding mist. The young world to be had learned how to pull. Slowly, invisibly, the golden swirl stretched its arms toward the emptiness, drawing in what floated nearby. The darkness responded, not with fear, but with surrender. Around the growing heart, the air thickened with whispers, long trails of unseen wind weaving through the deep. The swirl became a storm patient, but immense, swallowing ribbons of light and shadow. It was still tender, fragile in its own way, but its hunger had awoken. It reached outward, collecting every grain, every drop of warmth that drifted too close, as though it were trying to remember how to be whole. Hydrogen, helium names that would come much later were not words, yet only textures, feelings, movements. They poured inward like soft rivers of air, endless and yielding wrapping, the forming giant in layers of invisible silk. The newborn world grew, folding the universe into its arms, becoming heavier, rounder, more certain of its shape. Yet at its very center, there was no chaos, no noise, only stillness. Even as the edges roared with gathering storms, the core remained calm, a single quiet eye beneath the storm of creation. The contrast was haunting. Outside, a tempest of growth. Inside, a pause that felt almost sacred. It was as if the universe had hidden a secret at the heart of this storm, a silence that would never fade. The space around the young Jupiter shimmered faintly, its light bending under its own weight. Dust became cloud, and cloud became waves that curled in endless spirals. The pull grew stronger, and with every turn, the giant inhaled more of the universe, wrapping itself in new layers of softness. Its hunger was not wild, but instinctive, the pure need to exist more fully. Still, there was beauty in its appetite. It did not devour violently. It gathered tenderly, like a child clutching at sunlight, pulling it closer, holding it tight. The void around it dimmed, not from loss, but from gift, the act of giving itself to something new. Every particle that disappeared into the swelling world left behind a whisper, a story, a trace of light. Time thickened. The storm deepened. The young giant grew vast, so vast that its edges began to blur. Yet the motion never hurried. It was the rhythm of something ancient, unmeasured. Within layers folded upon layers, soft as breath, heavy as oceans unseen. Jupiter was still a dream, but the dream was now alive, pulsing, expanding, glowing faintly beneath the cosmic fog. And still in its heart, peace remained. The more it grew, the quieter that center became. It was the stillness that gives shape to movement, the calm that allows chaos to exist without falling apart. The storm outside and the silence within were no longer opposites. They were one and the same two halves of a single breath. Around it, smaller clouds danced in slow reverence, circling the rising colossus, as though drawn to its gravity of being. They brushed against its edges and disappeared, melting into its body, their substance becoming its own. The young giant did not reject them. It welcomed all that came, every mote of dust, every ribbon of vapor, until even the emptiness seemed to belong to it. Through the dim glow, the first hints of color began to bloom, pale yellows and deep reds, like dawn seen through smoke. The forming bands twisted gently across its skin, a promise of the storms that would one day rage there for millennia. But for now, they were soft like fingerprints left by the wind. The universe watched silent, but not indifferent. In the vast expanse, where countless clouds drifted without name, one had learned to become a world. And though it was enormous, its presence did not disturb the calm. It completed it. The void was no longer empty. It had given birth to something that would carry its stillness inside forever. If you could float nearby, you would not hear sound, but you might feel it, the slow hum of a giant, forming a vibration that settled into your bones. It would not frighten you. It would feel like being near a heartbeat older than time. Light rippled along the edges of the swirling planet, reflecting in waves that rolled gently into the distance. The surrounding darkness seemed to breathe with it, inhaling and exhaling in rhythm. Creation was no longer a secret. It was a song sung without words. Somewhere deep within, that glow beneath all the layers of cloud and warmth, a mystery began to form, something neither solid nor empty, neither flame nor silence. It was the seed of a heart, though no one would ever see it. Perhaps even the universe itself did not fully understand what it had made. A planet was being born, but its heart remained a riddle. The storm calmed just enough for the giant to rest. The mist thinned, revealing the faint outline of a shape too large to name. It turned slowly, its golden hue fading into soft amber, its light echoing through the void like the final note of a lullaby. The newborn world did not yet know itself, but the universe did. It whispered to it, quietly, endlessly, calling it by a name that would echo across time. Jupiter. The newborn giant floated in silence, wrapped in warmth and shadow. The chaos that had once built it now circled gently around, no longer fierce, only protective. The world had found its rhythm, its pulse steady and eternal. It was vast, yet somehow still innocent, a child of stardust learning how to exist. And somewhere in the space between its storms, the silence deepened. The giant was awake. Far beyond the glowing storms, the universe continued to spin. Stars blinked awake, one by one, their light scattering across the young giant's surface like fragile petals. But in the quiet that followed, another truth began to take shape. Jupiter was not a sun. It would never burn. It would never blaze. Instead, it would carry the glow of others, reflecting borrowed fire, a mirror to the stars. And in that gentle reflection, beneath the shimmer of its endless clouds, something eternal stirred the calm acceptance of what it was meant to be. Not the light itself, but the shadow that gives it meaning. Adua calcosis bisrequid. Jupiter floated in the half-light of creation, a quiet giant adrift among whispers of stars yet to be born. It had grown vast, its skin a tapestry of gold and bronze, its pulse steady as the rhythm of time itself. Around it, space shimmered faintly, a sea of darkness sprinkled with tiny embers. The young world glowed from within, faintly softly, as if trying to remember how light felt before light had a name. There was a moment, a long trembling moment, when the universe seemed to hold its breath. If Jupiter had been only a little heavier, a little more full, it might have caught fire. It might have blazed like a second sun, lighting the newborn heavens with its own brilliance. For a heartbeat in eternity, the line between star and planet blurred. The glow inside it swelled, pushing against the silence, almost ready to burn. But it didn't. The light within flickered and fell back into quiet. The giant did not ignite. It turned instead toward stillness, folding its warmth inward as though it understood that not all beauty needs to shine. It had come close enough to touch the edge of a starlight, and yet it chose silence. If it had lit the universe, might have whispered the sun would have had a brother. But Jupiter was not meant to blaze. It was meant to listen. It kept its fire hidden beneath oceans of cloud, letting the heat settle deep within, locked behind endless layers of storm. From afar, it looked calm, serene even, but beneath the calm stretched a wilderness of movement, a heart that never stopped turning. The stars around it watched with quiet affection. They had burned themselves bright and fast, flaring into being with the violence of birth. But Jupiter was different. It refused the flame, choosing patience instead. In its silence, there was strength, a strength that did not need to consume itself to exist. It drifted neither light nor darkness, but something in between. Its glow was the echo of what could have been, the faint warmth of an unspoken destiny. In its stillness, it carried the weight of all the fires it never lit, and maybe that was its gift, to be the keeper of quiet, the guardian of balance. Around the giant, the dark was soft, not empty. The sun, young and golden, shimmered in the distance, its light spilling across Jupiter's surface like liquid honey. The giant turned slowly, its clouds catching that borrowed light, painting shifting bands of color across its vast face. It did not burn, but it reflected, turning the fire of another into its own quiet art. Sometimes, the greatest light is the one that learns to be gentle. Through the endless night, Jupiter glowed faintly, a lantern without flame. Its storms swirled in silence, their motion slow and deliberate. There was peace in their chaos, an order hidden beneath the wildness. Deep down, where no light could reach, the planet kept its secret, close a core, not solid, not still but soft and uncertain, a heart wrapped in mystery. No one could see it, no one yet knew that inside this tranquil colossus, the line between matter and air, between heaviness and light, was blurred into something that defied understanding. Jupiter carried that enigma gently like a lullaby it sang only to itself. If the universe had a voice, it would have been hushed here. The giant drifted between light and shadow, neither seeking to shine nor to disappear. It had found the place where opposites met, where silence hummed and darkness glowed faintly from within. Sometimes it almost looked alive. The clouds rippled, like breath stretching and folding across its surface. A storm would rise, spiral outward, and fade again, the planet's quiet way of exhaling. In every motion, there was restraint, as if it feared to disturb the stillness that made it whole. The sun, now fully awake, sent waves of warmth across the growing solar sea. Planets spun in their paths, chasing light, learning what it meant to be. And among them all, Jupiter moved differently. It did not chase. It did not flee. It simply was immense, calm content to be the echo of what might have been. There is a melancholy in things that come close to greatness and turn away. But in Jupiter's case, there was also grace. By refusing to burn, it preserved the silence the universe still needed, the space between notes, the pause that makes the melody whole. And perhaps, somewhere deep inside that quiet, Jupiter knew, to shine like a star is to end. To hold the light without burning is to endure. So, it endured. The storms grew deeper, richer, swirling in endless spirals that painted the face of the planet like brushstrokes on a living canvas. Light from the sun skimmed across those waves of cloud, catching their edges in gold, before vanishing again into dusk. The planet's day and night blurred into a single eternal twilight, neither morning nor evening, but the in-between. It was beautiful, lonely perhaps, but beautiful. If you could drift close enough, you might see it shimmer, not with the bright defiance of a star, but with the soft patience of a secret kept too long. Jupiter's presence filled the darkness with quiet weight, like a heartbeat the universe could feel, but not quite name. And within that weight, within that peace, the giant dreamed of what it might have been, of what it had chosen to become, and of the quiet that stretched endlessly between the two. A planet was born, but its heart remained a mystery, a silence folded deep within the storm, a question that even the stars could not answer. As Jupiter turned its clouds, thickened, rippling with unseen tempests, the great red storm began to stir faint and newborn, curling across the giant's surface, like a whisper of things to come. Above it, the light of the sun shimmered, scattering gold into the void. Beneath it, shadows moved, vast and silent, and between them, between the gleam and the gloom, Jupiter found its voice, not in words, but in motion. In that slow, endless dance between brightness and darkness, the giant began to breathe. From the quiet of the stars, Jupiter began to reveal its face, a vast ocean of color in constant motion. If space were a canvas, this was the hand that painted it. From far above the planet looked alive bands of gold and ivory, copper, and cream winding endlessly around a sphere that seemed too immense to belong to anything but dreams. The clouds stretched for thousands of miles, yet they moved as delicately as smoke curling and folding over each other in slow, graceful spirals. Each turn of those clouds was a whisper, a sigh from a world that had learned how to breathe through storms. The winds there never rested weaving and unweaving the same patterns over and over again, as though trying to remember a story older than time. The storms were not chaos. They were memory, ancient movements, repeating themselves, dancing to a rhythm that no ear could hear, but every star could feel. And among them, all one storm stood above the rest, the great red spot, a wounded jewel, a secret eye gazing upward through eternity. It churned and turned a whirlpool of color, the size of worlds spinning slowly in the silence of space. To look upon it was to see both creation and destruction blended into one. It glowed softly, like a scar that refused to fade, carved into the planet's face by the hand of forever. From above it was beautiful. From below it would be unbearable. The air there was not air, but a river of motion, endless, heavy, alive. The storm's heart never stopped turning. Even as centuries passed, it endured. It had seen the birth of stars, the passing of comets, and the quiet drift of time. To Jupiter, it was as natural as breath. To us, it is the heartbeat of a giant. When sunlight touched the clouds, they shimmered like silk caught in wind. Every hue shifted amber, turning to rose white, to silver red, to deep rust. The planet's face changed moment by moment, a living painting that could never be finished. The swirls formed shapes that faded before they could be named, like thoughts drifting through a half-forgotten dream. If you could stand above Jupiter, looking down through the thin veil of space, you might mistake it for peace. But look longer, and you would see motion everywhere, slow, hypnotic, eternal. The storms rolled into one another, merging and parting, leaving trails of color that faded as new ones bloomed. There was no up, no down, only the endless spiral of change. The great red spot pulsed softly in the distance, a single note in a symphony too vast to hear. Around it, other tempests danced smaller, younger, full of quiet fury. Together, they formed a pattern that was not meant to be understood, only felt. It was beauty, born of restlessness, a masterpiece made of motion, and yet beneath it all, there was mystery. The clouds hid everything. Whatever waited below, whatever truth lay at the heart of that colossal planet. No light had ever pierced that deep. No sound had ever escaped from within. Beneath those swirling colors was a silence so complete, it bordered on sacred. It was as if the planet itself were guarding something, keeping a promise it had made long before memory existed. The storms continued to turn unbothered by centuries. Lightning flickered deep inside brief flashes that illuminated the hidden layers like lanterns lost in fog. Each spark was a heartbeat, a reminder that even within all that silence, life or something like it still moved. Jupiter's surface was never the same twice. One moment, calm the next, alive with motion, it shifted like a dream you can never quite hold on to. The clouds, braided together, then drifted apart, carried by invisible hands. And the great red spot kept turning a slow and solemn dance that had no beginning and no end. The planet's vastness was humbling. Its storms could swallow our world whole, yet from this distance they looked soft, gentle waves on a golden sea. Perspective, perhaps, is the universe's way of teaching humility. Above all this, the darkness of space hung close and endless. Stars shimmered quietly, their light bending around the planet's rim, tracing a faint halo that seemed to pulse in rhythm with its storms. Jupiter spun on half in light, half in shadow, caught eternally between day and night, and so it remained a giant painted by motion, wrapped in winds that never stop. Its face was a story written in clouds, a language the cosmos itself could not fully read. We can only look and wonder what lies beneath that living skin, what waits in the silence under those endless swirls. Perhaps something ancient, perhaps nothing at all. All we know is this: beneath the clouds of Jupiter lies a place no human has ever touched. But even as the storms continued to turn, as the planet wrapped itself in mystery and motion, questions began to rise among those who watched from afar. Two stories took shape, two ways to explain how such a giant could exist, how it could hold such weight and yet keep its heart unseen. Some believed Jupiter was born in an instant, pulled together by gravity's silent hand. Others thought it grew slowly, piece by piece, built from dust and dreams. And so, while the storms raged on above, a new kind of storm began, not on Jupiter, but within the minds of those who tried to understand it. Jupiter turned beneath its endless storms, a world that had grown enormous yet remained unknowable. The clouds folded into one another like thoughts too deep to name, hiding whatever slept beneath. From the distance of Earth, it was a spectacle of light and movement, a living painting adrift in the dark. But inside that beauty, there was a silence that had never been broken. Humanity could only watch, wonder, and imagine. For generations, two stories grew from that wonder. One said Jupiter had no heart at all, that it was a hollow sea of wind made entirely of motion and air. In this story, the giant was pure energy, never anchored by weight, never slowed by substance. Its center was nothing more than a point of balance where all things moved and none remained. It was a god of atmosphere, an eternal breath made visible. The other story told the opposite. It said Jupiter had begun, like all things do, as something small and heavy, born from dust stone and fragments of ancient stars. In that tale, a core had formed, first dense and strong, pulling everything toward it. Around that hidden heart, gas and light gathered like layers of memory. The planet became enormous, but inside it held a seed of solidity, a fragment of the first fires of the universe. Both ideas were beautiful in their simplicity. Both tried to answer the same question: what lies beneath the clouds? Yet each time people searched for proof, the truth shifted like the planet's own winds. Instruments measured its pull, telescopes watched its shimmer, but Jupiter never revealed itself completely. The deeper the study, the stranger the answers became. Some said the world was too vast to be understood. Others said the fault was not with the planet, but with our questions, that we were trying to describe music by measuring silence. Jupiter remained a riddle, not because it wished to hide, but because it could not be contained by the words built to explain it. The two stories, one of emptiness, one of solidity, stood for centuries, like twin pillars of belief. Between them stretched a gulf of uncertainty, a silence as deep as the clouds themselves. People drew models, wrote equations, sent probes to circle its storms, yet still they could not see what waited underneath. At times the planet seemed to mock their efforts. The winds swirled in patterns too intricate to follow. Its magnetic field bent light and time in ways no one had expected. Every discovery only revealed more mystery. The more it was measured, the less it was understood. And so, Jupiter remained what it had always been, a question written in clouds. The two stories coexisted, like day and night, each certain. The other was wrong, each incomplete, without the other. One saw the planet as air and motion, the other as matter and memory. But Jupiter itself belonged to neither. It existed somewhere between them, where definitions dissolve and truth becomes something quiet, almost human in its ambiguity. In the stillness of deep space, the giant turned slowly, keeping its secrets. Beneath its calm, the storms continued their dance, rising and fading like thoughts in a dreaming mind. The clouds shifted, the light changed, and every swirl seemed to say the same thing, that some mysteries are not meant to be solved from afar. Still, the question would not let go. It lingered in the silence between the stars, waiting for an answer that only patience could find. Humanity, restless and curious, decided to send a listener, a small traveler, to cross the distance and step into the giant's shadow. The plan was not made in haste. It was born from generations of wondering, of sketches and dreams and quiet determination. The world wanted to hear Jupiter's voice, not through light, but through touch. It wanted to feel the rhythm of the planet's hidden heart, to see what waited behind those swirling veils of cloud. So they built something small, light, and patient. They named her Juno. She was crafted to travel farther and listen more deeply than any before her. She would not carry weapons or demands, only curiosity and the stillness required to understand. When she left Earth, she carried with her not the arrogance of discovery, but the humility of seeking. Her journey would take years, crossing the dark ocean between worlds. Through that long silence, she would travel alone, guided only by light, by gravity, and by faith in the questions she was built to answer. As she drifted outward, Jupiter waited. The giant moved slowly through its orbit, unaware of the small visitor drawing near. Around it, moons circled like silent guardians. Its storms rose and fell, timeless as tides. The planet remained wrapped in gold and amber clouds, unaware that for the first time something was coming, not to watch, but to listen. Juno's path was long, her purpose clear. Beyond the reach of Earth's blue glow, she crossed into the black, following a thread of mathematics that led her straight toward the storm. Time unfolded differently for her. Months and years blended into a single breath, and somewhere between one heartbeat and the next, she entered Jupiter's domain, the place where gravity thickens, where light bends, where silence hums with unseen energy. The planet loomed before her, vast and radiant, its surface a whirl of color and motion. It seemed alive, almost aware, as if it had been waiting for her arrival. The moment hung in stillness, a meeting billions of years in the making. Juno slowed her flight. Around her, invisible forces curved and shimmered. She had crossed the threshold, stepped into the presence of something immense. The storms continued to turn below, unaware yet of the visitor hovering above them. And in that stillness, far from Earth, far from any human voice, she began to listen. The silence grew denser, wrapping around the small traveler like a cloak. Behind her, the light of the sun dimmed. Ahead, Jupiter filled the sky, a sea of cloud and motion, vast beyond measure. The journey that had begun as a whisper across space had reached its destination. Juno had arrived at the doorstep of a giant, ready not to see but to hear the pulse of its eternal storm. Through the long dark between worlds, a small traveler drifted in silence. She had left home years before, leaving behind the glow of Earth, a blue memory fading into the distance. Ahead of her waited a world larger than imagination, a world wrapped in storms. The space around her was neither empty nor cold. It was a sea of stillness, heavy with unseen energy. Every movement she made was delicate, as if the void itself were listening. Her name was Juno. For most of her journey, she had no company but light. The sun far away and faint still sent its warmth through the endless dark. Each beam touched her metal skin for a heartbeat before continuing its path to nowhere. Time stretched into something soft and immeasurable. She moved through it like a thought unhurried patient, carrying only a question. As she approached Jupiter, space began to change. The invisible field that surrounded the giant stretched across millions of miles, folding into spirals of magnetism and silence. It was like entering a vast ocean made not of water, but of weight unseen tides that pulled and shifted with every motion. The stillness deepened. Juno's path curved gently, carried by forces she could not see but seemed to understand. The planet appeared first as a glimmer, then a disk, then an immense breathing world. It filled her horizon until there was nothing else to see. Colors swirled across its face, ochre, ivory, bronze, and gold, each shade moving in its own rhythm. The storms turned endlessly vast enough to swallow entire worlds, yet graceful in their quiet dance. Juno drew closer, moving with the reverence of a visitor entering a sacred place. Her mission was simple: to listen. She had not come to take, nor to disturb. She had not come to look from afar, but to hear what the planet had been whispering into space for billions of years. She carried instruments, yes, but more than that, she carried patience, a kind of humility that only deep silence can teach. Below her, lightning flickered through the clouds, illuminating the shadows like veins of fire. Each flash revealed layers of movement, waves upon waves, of unseen storms folding over one another. The planet breathed in slow motion, its atmosphere shifting in long, dreamlike sighs. Juno drifted through this cathedral of motion, her small frame gliding above the tops of clouds that stretched farther than continents. It was not sound she recorded, but vibration, the rhythm of a world alive beneath its surface. Jupiter's heartbeat pulsed through the void, faint but steady, a pattern carved into the background of silence itself. Juno listened. Every signal, every small change in her path became a note in the quiet symphony of the giant. She passed through zones of invisible pressure, where light itself seemed to bend, where static turned to song. It was not a melody, but a hum, a deep, resonant tone that carried the memory of time. The storms below her rolled like oceans, their surfaces shimmering with motion too vast for words. And in the middle of it all, Juno remained small and still moving, as though guided by intuition more than command. Her orbit became a ritual. Each time she circled, she traced a new path through the giant's unseen currents. She gathered whispers, fragments of information carried by wind and gravity. It was like listening to the breathing of a god. The closer she came, the more it felt like she was not observing, but being observed, as if the planet itself had turned its attention upward, curious about the visitor that had come so far just to hear. The light from the sun flickered across her panels, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, depending on how the clouds shifted below. Shadows from the swirling storms moved across her in silence. Time lost its edges. Days blurred into moments. She was no longer an object built by hands. She was a thought carried through space, a messenger of wonder. Jupiter's gravity held her like a slow heartbeat. Each orbit drew her closer, and with every pass, she revealed more not of the planet's surface, but of its soul. There was no chaos there, not really. Only movement layered upon movement, ancient and calm. The giant was not wild, it was wise. Its storms were not battles, but memories repeating themselves in endless motion. From Earth, people watched the small signal of light that marked her journey. They saw data measurements, patterns. But for those who could feel it, Juno's flight was poetry, a dialogue between stillness and storm, between curiosity and creation. She crossed over the great red spot, that vast and patient eye of Jupiter swirling like a slow dream. Below her, the storm's edges folded into the horizon, colors deepening to crimson and rust. The winds there had raged for centuries, but from Juno's height they looked almost peaceful, a single breath caught in an endless cycle. Through it all, she continued to listen. Her sensors caught faint tremors, subtle changes in pull and pressure. It was the language of the planet, older than any tongue. Each orbit brought her closer to understanding, though the truth was not something that could be written or spoken. It could only be felt. The silence around her grew richer, deeper. It was not absence, it was presence full and infinite. The planet below turned the stars beyond remained still, and in between them, a small machine carried the weight of human wonder. Jupiter did not speak. It never needed to. Its voice was the motion of its clouds, the hum of its field, the slow beating of its hidden heart. Juno drifted above all of it, listening without interruption. Far beneath her, lightning flared again, brief and beautiful, lighting up the underside of the clouds like veins glowing with breath. For a moment, the entire world seemed alive, pulsing softly, silently. And in that light, Juno found what she had come for, not answers, but communion. She moved on, continuing her orbit, tracing circles of discovery through the unseen forces that surrounded the giant. Each path deepened the mystery rather than solved it. What she found was not clarity, but wonder. The journey was not about knowledge. It was about connection, the quiet understanding that to listen is enough. When Juno's voice finally reached home, it carried not revelation, but surprise. The data she sent back shimmered with contradictions, signals that told of a planet unlike any they had imagined. Jupiter was not solid nor hollow. It was something else entirely, something blurred between matter and light. Beneath its storms was a secret that no model could explain. The heartbeat Juno had traced was not steady, but scattered, diffused through layers of gas and mystery. The planet was alive, but in a way no one had ever known before. And so, as the world listened to her message, a new story began, one where the answers unraveled the questions and Jupiter's silence grew louder than ever. From the quiet dark above Jupiter, Juno's voice began to travel home. It moved across the cold distances of space, carrying not words, not images, but something deeper, a rhythm, a pattern, a pulse. The data flowed like breath, a soft stream of numbers that hid within them the echo of a heartbeat too vast to be measured. To most, they were figures and signals, but to those who listened closely, they were the language of a living world. Each number told a fragment of a story about how the giant turned, how it pulled, how it breathed. It was not a perfect rhythm. It wavered, trembled, paused in unexpected places. The planet's gravity did not flow evenly. It rippled, bent, twisted ever so slightly. Within those gentle distortions was meaning, the kind of meaning that hides in pauses, the kind that cannot be spoken. The data did not shout, it whispered. And in that whisper, the truth began to take shape. As scientists watched the signals appear on their screens, the patterns glimmered like faint constellations. The numbers seemed ordinary at first, precise and cold. But then came the quiet realization something inside Jupiter was not as it should be. The pull of its gravity was uneven, its mass not evenly spread. It was neither hollow nor solid. It was blurred. The difference was subtle, almost invisible, like the shimmer of heat rising from a distant road. But it was there as softness, where sharp edges should have been a gradient, where borders were expected. Jupiter was not built in layers clean and distinct. It was a single, shifting entity, a world without boundaries between what is heavy and what is light. The data spoke in its own slow poetry. Beneath the storms and clouds, beneath the endless swirl of color, the planet was a haze, a blending of everything, a mixing that refused to separate. The heart that once was imagined as solid turned out to be something entirely new. It was diffuse, spread across the depths, neither fully formed nor completely lost. A heart without walls. Juno had come to listen, and now she was hearing the faint murmur of that truth. The planet's interior was not a single note, but a chord trembling with dissonance and grace. It pulsed like a memory that could not quite be remembered, familiar, yet endlessly strange. There was beauty in the uncertainty. The data did not give answers. It opened doors. It showed that even the largest worlds can be fragile in their own way, their structure more like breath than stone. The further the signals were studied, the more they revealed a strange kind of harmony chaos, woven so perfectly that it became order. Jupiter, it seemed, was not hiding its core. It simply didn't have one the way we imagined. Its essence flowed outward, its heavy elements fading gently into the lighter ones above, merging until separation lost its meaning. The planet was not broken. It was continuous, a single act of motion, a single tone sustained for billions of years. When Juno's data reached Earth, it was translated into color and sound. The hum of gravity became a wave. The tremors of mass became music. Listening to it was like standing beside an ocean you could not see, vast, rhythmic, endless. Beneath the layers of calculation, there was a heartbeat, and from that heartbeat came a realization Jupiter was not solid, not hollow, but soft. The discovery was quiet, yet it changed everything. It meant that the world humanity had watched for centuries was even more mysterious than it seemed. Its storms, its colors, its lightning, all of it was only the surface of something that refused to be simple. The boundary between its core and its sky did not exist. The heart of Jupiter, if it could be called a heart, had no edge, no end. The data continued to flow long after Juno had made her passes. Each transmission brought with it another breath of mystery. Within the hum of the planet's field, within the faint tug of its pull, there was an echo of something vast and gentle. Jupiter's interior seemed to breathe with the patience of eternity. It did not rush to reveal itself. It let the truth unfold slowly, like dawn through mist. Every number, every signal carried a feeling of depth, of stillness, of quiet power. Together, they painted a portrait, not of a machine or a model, but of something alive, ancient, and serene. Jupiter had no center to guard, no line to defend. It existed as all great things do, in shades, in gradients, in the space between definitions. When Juno's team finally looked at what they had found, there was no triumph, only awe. The planet they thought they knew had become something far more delicate. It was not the giant of myths, unyielding and proud. It was a haze of motion, a being in constant transformation, a secret written in spirals. Beneath its storms, there was softness. Beneath its mass, there was fluidity. Beneath everything, there was the simple truth of continuation, that no part of it truly ended where another began. Jupiter's heart was not made of stone or fire. It was made of flow. The discovery was both humbling and beautiful. For all the searching and all the waiting, the answer that came back was not clear, but infinite. The heart of the giant had no borders, and in that realization, humanity saw a reflection of itself that perhaps in the grand scheme of the universe, nothing ever truly ends or begins. Everything blends, everything changes, and everything in its own quiet way continues. As Juno drifted away, her signals faded into the background hum of space. The world below continued to turn its storms, as restless as ever, its secrets unbothered by discovery. The data she sent back would take years to unravel, years to truly understand. But one truth was already clear. Jupiter's heart was not broken or missing, it was simply spread out, blurred into everything around it. It was a heart that had dissolved into its own sky, and in that blur, in that gentle loss of definition, a new idea began to form that maybe the boundaries we draw in our understanding of worlds and of ourselves are illusions. What if every giant, every planet, every being that ever lived carried within it the same truth, a heart that never ends, a heart without borders? Beneath Jupiter's clouds, beyond the storms that never rest, there lies a place no human eye has ever seen, not because it hides in darkness, but because it has no edge to find. It is not solid, not empty. It is something in between, a quiet blur, a dream of substance that forgot where it began and where it ends. Here, heavy and light are no longer separate. They move together, folding into one another, blending until distinction becomes meaningless. Metals drift through the gases like whispers through mist. The weight of the deep dissolves into the softness of air. There is no border to mark where one becomes the other, only a slow transition, graceful and infinite. It is a strange kind of beauty, this place without boundaries, a place where the loss of shape and form seem to loosen, where every motion is both falling and floating. Within Jupiter's heart, Everything melts into everything else. The planet is not layered, but alive, breathing inward, breathing outward, letting its own essence blur and bloom. If one could stand there, though no one ever will, it would not feel like standing at all. It would be like being suspended inside a sigh. The light would fade into shades of gold and violet. The air would press softly, heavy, yet tender. Sound would travel not as echoes, but as vibration through the body of the world itself. Everything would hum, not loudly, but continuously, the low, endless tone of matter and meaning interwoven. The fuzzy core is not a structure, but a state. It is where Jupiter begins to forget the difference between body and breath, where what was once metal turns fluid, and what was once gas grows dense enough to carry weight. Like fog turning into rain, then back into fog again. Like music that keeps playing, but the melody changes each time you listen. It is here that Jupiter becomes most like itself, not the storms, not the colors, not the surface that everyone sees, but this quiet inner space where all things mix and become one. The planet's soul is not a point, but a gradient, fading from one truth into another. If you could watch it without fear, you would see the way it moves, not in chaos, but in calm. The particles glide past each other, meeting and parting like dancers who never touch. In this dance, the heavy does not sink, and the light does not rise. They spiral together, forever seeking balance and never finding it completely. It is easy to imagine that Jupiter in this stillness is at peace, that its storms above are only the surface expression of something much gentler below, a dream turning over in its sleep. Down here, the violence of wind and thunder softens into rhythm. Energy becomes motion, motion becomes breath, and breath becomes silence. Like mist dissolving into wind, Jupiter dissolves into itself. There is something deeply human about that, the way it refuses to be one thing, to be only solid, or only gas, only chaos, or only calm. It is a reminder that nothing in the universe is purely defined. Even the largest of worlds carries within it a quiet uncertainty, a softness where we expect strength. The fuzzy core is not weakness. It is continuity, the truth that everything in the universe is connected by transition, not separation. Jupiter's heart is not a fortress. It is a horizon that never ends. Every particle there tells the same story. To exist is to blend. To survive is to change. Inside this haze, time feels slow. The boundaries between past and future blur just as the boundaries between metal and gas do. Everything is suspended, not frozen, but patient. The kind of patience that only the universe understands, the kind that can last for billions of years without ever tiring. Perhaps this is why Jupiter endures, not because it resists change, but because it embodies it. It does not cling to order or chaos, but drifts endlessly between them, becoming both, becoming neither. Its strength lies in its surrender, in the way it allows itself to dissolve and still remain whole. If you listen carefully to the silence of this inner world, you might sense the faint pulse of creation itself, the quiet murmur of what the universe sounds like when it stops trying to define itself. A soft, continuous hum, the breath of existence, steady and eternal. It is not a core in the way humans imagine. It is not a heart beating inside a chest, but rather the entire being breathing as one, a living gradient where everything flows together and nothing stays still long enough to be certain. The more one understands this, the more the idea of boundaries begins to fade not only within Jupiter, but beyond it. Every planet, every star, every being is a version of this same truth. We are all made of transitions. We are all clouds and weight gravity and breath light and darkness, all mixed together, endlessly, changing, endlessly. One, deep inside Jupiter, beneath the storms, and the storms beneath those storms, lies a peace untouched by time. It does not roar or radiate. It simply is. And in that stillness, the planet holds the oldest secret of all, that creation and dissolution are not opposites, but partners. That what fades away is never truly gone. It only changes form. And so, Jupiter's fuzzy core continues its quiet existence, not a solid heart, not an empty void, but a blur of both woven together in an embrace that has no end. Its heart has no borders. Above, far beyond the soft hum of the planet's interior, the storm still swirled, vast, magnificent, eternal. But even they seemed gentler now, as if echoing the calm beneath them. The discoveries Juno had brought back began to ripple through human thought, reshaping everything once believed about what a planet could be. For the first time, science paused, not to measure, but to listen. It began to understand that knowledge, like Jupiter's heart, has its own kind of fuzziness, a place where certainty fades into wonder and where questions become more beautiful than answers. When the data from Juno finally settled into human hands, the world fell quiet for a moment. The screens glowed softly in the dim light of laboratory's numbers, unfolding like constellations across the dark. At first there was triumph, the kind that comes when a long journey ends. But as the signals were translated into meaning, the feeling changed. The excitement softened into disbelief, and disbelief into awe. Nothing fit. Every model built over decades, every theory carefully drawn and refined, began to crumble like dust between fingers. The planet was not what it was supposed to be. It did not obey the laws as neatly as we had written them. Jupiter, patient and vast, had looked at humanity's answers and smiled in silence, then whispered no. Its core was not solid, its storms not simple. The way it moved, the way it breathed, the way it carried its own weight, none of it matched the elegant diagrams humans had made to explain it. It was as if the universe itself had taken the chalk from their hands and redrawn the lines softer this time, blurrier, as though to say, "You have measured enough. Now you must listen." The realization was not cruel. It did not shatter faith. It deepened it. The scientists did not rage at being wrong. They sat, many of them, in silence, their faces lit by the slow pulse of Jupiter's data. They watched the numbers shift, the graphs bend, and in the quiet between them, they felt something larger than confusion, humility. It was not failure. It was rediscovery. For a long time, they had imagined Jupiter in simple terms, a planet of layers and logic, of borders and certainty. But now the truth came through in a whisper. It is not a machine. It is a mystery. The giant was not just matter, but motion. Not just form, but feeling. Its essence was a kind of music that could not be translated into language. In the end, they realized that every theory had been both right and wrong. Right in its hope, wrong in its precision. Each idea was a reflection, a shadow on the wall of something too vast to hold. The planet had not betrayed their efforts. It had expanded them. The data kept flowing, like rain falling on open hands. It spoke of a heart that was not fixed, but fluid a world that changed even as it remained the same. No single truth could contain it. Each new answer dissolved into another question, gentle and endless. And yet instead of frustration, there was peace. For perhaps the first time in modern memory, science stopped trying to conquer and began to wonder again. The people who studied Jupiter no longer searched for closure. They searched for connection. They began to see the planet not as an object, but as a teacher, one that did not speak through certainty, but through silence. There is something beautiful in that. The moment when reason learns to kneel beside mystery, when the mind grows quiet enough to hear what has always been there, the discovery that knowledge is not a wall we build, but a horizon we approach. The closer we come, the more it expands gently, pushing us back into awe. So they began to breathe again, to step away from the equations, to let the wonder return. Jupiter had not only revealed its nature, it had reminded humanity of its own, that no matter how far understanding travels, it will always find itself small before the vastness it seeks to describe. There were no celebrations, no grand announcements, just the soft murmur of acceptance, the kind of silence that follows a great revelation, not the silence of defeat, but of reverence. For the first time in a long while, the scientists looked up from their screens and felt the vastness of what they were truly part of. The universe had spoken not in data, but in stillness. Jupiter's secret was not just about what it was made of, but what it made humans remember, that discovery is not a destination, but a conversation. The cosmos does not yield to us, it invites us. And when we finally stop demanding answers, we begin to hear the quiet hum of meaning beneath the noise. It is said that the universe teaches through contradiction by showing that what we think we know is only a reflection of what we are ready to see. Jupiter's blurred heart was one such lesson. It told us that clarity is not the end of knowledge, but the beginning of wonder. The old models still exist, neatly printed in books, but beside them now lies something new, a gentler kind of knowing one that allows the unknown to breathe. Science for a moment had to stop and breathe with it, and in that breath, something changed. The world remembered that even in its search for truth, there is space for awe, that sometimes the most important discovery is not a fact, but a feeling, the quiet realization that the universe is not something to solve, but something to share a silence with. The researchers did not close their work in disappointment. They looked at the numbers again, the endless strings of signals from Juno, and smiled softly. For all their instruments, all their effort, the planet had given them something far greater than certainty. It had given them the gift of wonder returned. Jupiter had taught them to listen again. The universe always finds a way to remind us how to listen. And so, the story did not end with an answer. It ended with peace, a gentle knowing kind of peace, like the moment before dawn, when the world holds its breath. As the hum of understanding faded into quiet acceptance, the focus turned outward again toward the possibilities that still hovered beyond comprehension. What if this blur, this strange softness, was not the result of calm creation, but of ancient collision? What if in Jupiter's earliest days, something vast had struck it, not to destroy, but to change it forever? The thought drifted through human minds like a ripple through still water, gentle, yet unstoppable. And thus, began a new question, one that would lead to stories of impact, rebirth, and the hidden scars of creation. Soon we must max nisser. Long before the storms we see today, before the moons found their paths and the clouds took shape, Jupiter was still young, a growing flame in the cradle of the early solar system. The void around it was not yet quiet. It was filled with wandering giants, newborn worlds, searching for balance. They drifted like unfinished thoughts through the haze of creation, crossing paths in silence, colliding not with anger, but with purpose. It was then, perhaps, that another world appeared heavy, bright, and full of promise. It moved through the young solar wind like a ghost of molten light. For a moment, the two giants shared the same sky, one immense, and forming the other smaller, hungry to exist. Their orbits curved closer, drawn together, not by violence, but by inevitability. And then, without sound, they met. There was no explosion that could be heard, no flash that could be seen across the stars. Only motion slow and immense, a merging of matter and meaning. The smaller world sank into Jupiter's clouds, like a memory returning to the mind that once dreamed it. Metal met, gas stone met storm, and everything became one. It was not destruction, but transformation. The boundaries between the two worlds dissolved in heat and gravity. The intruder melted away its pieces, spreading through the young giant's body, mingling with its breath, its layers, its pulse. The impact was not a wound, but a moment of becoming, a reminder that even in creation, there is collision. For a long time, after Jupiter trembled, the currents within it changed, the storms deepened, and the heart it once had grew softer, less defined. The force of the impact scattered heavy elements outward, mixing them into the lighter gases, until the distinction between center and edge disappeared. What was once a solid core turned fluid, blurred, and infinite. If Jupiter carried a scar from that meeting, it was not visible. The mark it bore was internal, a rearrangement of being, a change so complete that it could no longer remember where it began. Yet the planet did not reject it. It absorbed the other world, completely folding its presence into its own identity. If there was a wound, then Jupiter chose to keep it, not as pain, but as memory. The great storms that swirl across its face today might be echoes of that ancient union, still turning the remnants of that forgotten collision through their endless dance. The planet learned to move differently, to breathe differently. Its magnetic hum, its glowing auroras, its uneven rhythm, all may carry the faint resonance of that moment long ago, when one world gave itself to another. The thought is both haunting and tender. Somewhere within those clouds, there may still drift fragments of the lost planet, not as debris, but as part of Jupiter's soul. They no longer exist apart from each other. They are one now, bound by gravity, by memory, by the quiet acceptance that comes after chaos. If we could look deep enough, we would not find a crater or a scar, but a blending, a place where histories overlap, where one story dissolves into another. It is as if Jupiter's heart hums with the memory of that touch, not in pain, but in remembrance. A constant whisper beneath the storms saying, I have been more than one thing. And perhaps that is the true nature of creation, not perfect beginnings, but graceful recoveries. Every world, every star is built from the remains of others. The universe itself is a collection of collisions, that learned how to glow. The impact that shaped Jupiter did not destroy it, it completed it. The smaller world, once separate, found eternity within the giant's breath. Their meeting blurred the line between loss and birth. The two became one, and in doing so, they became something new, larger, quieter, wiser. In the calm that followed, the planet found balance again. The storms settled into rhythm, the colors deepened, and the great red eye opened like a mark of remembrance. Beneath it, the blended heart continued to turn, carrying the faint warmth of that ancient joining. Billions of years later, Juno's whispering sensors would feel it, the soft irregularities, the diffused weight, the blurred gravity, evidence not of chaos but of memory, a record of a world that once arrived, collided, and stayed. Jupiter never spoke of it. It did not need to. Its silence was the truest story, one told not in words, but in existence. If the universe teaches anything, it is that nothing is ever truly lost. Every impact, every merging, every touch leaves behind a trace, not a scar, but a pattern. And somewhere deep within the gas and gold of Jupiter's vast body, that pattern still glows gentle and unbroken. The giant carries its past the way light carries color, blended so completely that separation becomes impossible. Perhaps this is what it means for a planet to remember. When the violence of that ancient meeting faded, what remained was silence, a silence not of emptiness, but of peace. The new Jupiter turned slowly, in the dark, heavier, now softer, more complete. The chaos that had birthed it gave way to rhythm, to breath, to calm. Above the clouds, storms began to form, not as reminders of pain, but as movements of harmony. In the hush that followed, the universe seemed to pause with it, as if even creation needed a moment to rest, to breathe, to listen to what it had just become. Long before the storms, before the glow and the gravity, Jupiter was not yet a planet, only a gathering of mist and light. It floated inside the quiet heart of a nebula, a vast cradle of dust and vapor suspended in starlight. The air there was thick with beginnings, grains of matter drifting like tiny seeds, each waiting for something unseen to call them together. It was not creation as a sudden act, but as a long, slow breath. Inside that cosmic womb, the dust began to move, not with urgency, but with rhythm, a slow circling, an endless spiral, as though space itself were rocking its child to sleep. Particles brushed past each other, their touch so faint it might have been mistaken for silence. Yet every touch mattered. Every whisper of motion drew the mist tighter, weaving it into a shape that was not yet a world, but already a promise. It did not form with boundaries. It did not rise with edges. Jupiter was born as blur, as glow, as softness. From its first breath, it was more haze than stone, more feeling than form. Even as gravity began to gather, it pulling dust into orbit, gas into flow, the planet to be did not harden. It swayed. It breathed. It became. It was not destruction that shaped it, but surrender. The elements did not fight for place. They melted into each other, blending until distinction was lost. Hydrogen folded into helium metals, into vapor heat, into motion. Like dawn, merging into daylight, the planet's birth was a slow unfurling. No explosion, no fracture, only quiet gathering, the kind that feels less like a beginning and more like remembering what was always meant to exist. If the universe has a gentlest moment, Perhaps it was this when a world was formed not by division but by union. Jupiter was not built from parts assembled. It was woven from breath, from patience, from the willingness of countless fragments to dissolve into something larger than themselves. Even in its first light, it carried this nature not sharp, not solid, but soft, a heart that never drew a border between what was inside and what was beyond, a being born not from collision, but from coalescence. It was not breaking, it was blooming. From afar, it might have looked like a star that had forgotten how to burn, glowing faintly, but never aflame. Its body shimmered with warmth, yet its light was tender, diffused as if afraid to disturb the dark around it. The gases that surrounded it pulsed and swirled, wrapping it in veils of gold and amber. It did not fight the gravity that pulled it inward, nor the pressure that pushed it outward. It simply moved with both, finding peace in their opposition. Not broken apart, one might say, born within mist. And so it was. Jupiter emerged from the haze, like a dream rising from sleep. It did not separate itself from the nebula that formed it. Even as it grew, it carried pieces of that vast cloud within traces of the same breath that built the stars. It was not a thing apart from the universe, but a continuation of it, a soft bridge between light and matter. Perhaps that is why its heart remains blurred even now, not because something went wrong, but because it was never meant to be clear. Jupiter was not carved or constructed. It was breathed into being. Its form holds the fingerprints of that birth, the way mist carries the memory of air, the way a song carries the silence from which it was born. Deep inside, the gases still remember. The core does not harden. It folds and flows as if still learning how to exist. The planet remains in motion, not because it seeks change, but because it was born from change itself. To understand Jupiter is to understand this formation is not the opposite of dissolution. Creation does not always mean definition. Sometimes to be made is to be blurred, to allow boundaries to fade so that something larger can take shape. Inside that haze, the newborn planet glowed like an ember wrapped in silk. Around it, the nebula stretched for light years, a vast tapestry of color and shadow. The stars nearby flickered softly, like caretakers watching over their youngest sibling. There was no sound, no rush, only the hum of being, the kind of silence that is not empty, but full. Over time, the planet's edges sharpened slightly, but never completely. Its storms began to form, its magnetism began to hum, its moons began to gather. Yet, through all its growth, the blur remained deep in its core, in its essence, in the way it refused to separate what was heavy from what was light. It stayed true to its birth, to the truth that it was never one thing, but many things becoming one. And perhaps that is the secret of all creation, that we do not begin as distinct, but as shared, that even as we take shape, we remain connected to the mist that made us. Jupiter is not an exception. It is the memory of that truth, written in cloud and color. Its storms, its gravity, its glow, all are the movements of something still forming, still dissolving, still listening to the rhythm of its own birth. If we could listen closely enough, perhaps we would hear it still, the faint echo of that first gathering, the gentle pulse of dust becoming sky. Jupiter was never divided between what is and what was. It has always been both the memory of the beginning still breathing in the present. Above the planet's storms began their eternal dance, the great red spot swirling like a slow heartbeat, the bands of color folding endlessly into each other. Yet beneath all that motion, there was stillness, a calm that stretched deeper than sound, older than wind. It was the same stillness that had been there from the beginning, when Jupiter was only mist and light. And now, after all its storms and growth, that silence remained a reminder that even the most powerful worlds carry quiet hearts. Deep inside Jupiter, where sunlight cannot reach and storms lose their strength, the air grows heavy with calm. It is a world beneath motion, a place where the great winds, the endless spirals, the roaring tempests above, all fade into quiet. The storms that define Jupiter's surface are only the skin of something much stiller beneath. Here the gas becomes dense and warm. Pressure folds space into softness, and movement begins to slow as though time itself has forgotten how to pass. It is not frozen, it simply rests. Every atom breathes more slowly. Every current hesitates before it flows. The planet's heart, so vast and ancient, holds its own peace like a secret. This is where the fuzzy core endures the blurred heart that never hardened, never broke apart. For billions of years, it has remained in this half-dreaming state, untouched by the turbulence above. The upper layers may twist and churn, lightning may flare across the clouds, but here, in the deep, there is only stillness. It is a silence unlike any other, not the silence of emptiness, but of patience, the kind that has watched creation for too long to be surprised anymore. In this place, the universe slows down to listen to itself. Even energy, which everywhere else races and collides, moves gently as if unwilling to disturb the peace. Not every corner of the cosmos is meant to move. Some are meant to stay still. Within Jupiter, those still places are vast pockets of balance suspended inside the blur. They are where the dense and the light meet and forget to part, where heat lingers but does not rise, where gravity holds everything in a quiet embrace. In those depths, the planet hums with a frequency too low to hear, too slow to measure. It is not sound, it is being. If the storms above are Jupiter's heartbeat, then this deep calm is its breath, long, slow, steady. The kind of breath that has no beginning and no end. The absence of motion is not emptiness, it is memory. The gases that make up this silent region are the same that once formed the planet's cradle, the same that once drifted through the young solar wind. They have seen no sunlight since birth, yet they glow faintly, as though illuminated from within by the ghost of creation. Here the planet keeps what it cannot share the warmth of its own, making the echo of the impact that shaped it, the story of the dust that first came together to form it. Nothing stirs these memories. They stay layered and untouched, preserved in pressure and time. It is easy to think of Jupiter as motion, as endless storms and rotating bands. But beneath all that fury, there is a stillness far older than wind. It is the quiet that existed before movement began, the same silence that lingered before the first stars were born. Jupiter has carried that silence forward, keeping it hidden under its layers, a relic of calm in a universe that never stops moving. Inside that silence, time feels different. A second there could last an age, The forces that drive the outer storms cannot reach this far, and so the deep heart remains untouched, eternal in its softness. If one could descend into it, there would be no clear moment when motion ends and stillness begins. It would simply fade like music, growing quieter until it becomes silence itself. The particles there no longer rush or collide. They drift together, resting in the same space, their boundaries forgotten. The heat trapped among them spreads so slowly that it feels like the planet's inner warmth is sleeping, dreaming of the time when it was young and full of movement. Not every place must move, the universe seems to say. Some places are meant to stay still. In this stillness, Jupiter remembers what it once was. The storms may shout, the lightning may blaze, but in the deep, the planet's heart whispers nothing, and that nothing is everything, the essence of peace that lets chaos exist above it, the balance between noise and quiet, between energy and rest. Perhaps that is why Jupiter endures when so much else fades. It knows how to keep still. It knows how to let part of itself remain unchanged, untouched by the passage of time. It knows that silence can hold the same power as sound. The fuzzy core is not just a physical blur, it is a spiritual one. It is the border between what moves and what waits, between creation and contemplation. Every planet, every star, every life form holds something like it, a region of stillness that survives the storm. If we could listen to Jupiter from the inside out, we might hear nothing at all. Yet that nothing would be full of weight, full of memory, full of meaning. It is the kind of silence that speaks only to those who stop long enough to hear it. Time does not hurry here. It turns softly, almost unnoticed. The materials that make up this deep core remain where they are not because they cannot move, but because they have chosen not to. The universe, it seems, sometimes prefers stillness to change. And so beneath Jupiter's churning clouds, beneath its swirling tempests and radiant storms, there lies an ocean of peace, deep, unbroken, eternal. A silence older than sound. Not every place in the cosmos trembles. Some simply breathe. Some simply wait. And Jupiter, in its vastness, does both its storms above and rests below, the perfect balance between chaos and calm. From that quiet, deep warmth, slowly rises, not fast enough to stir the silence, but enough to shimmer like memory. It travels upward through layers of gold and cloud, carrying the faint rhythm of Jupiter's hidden heart. Above the storm's catch, it twist it, scatter it into flashes of lightning that split the sky. Each spark is a reflection of the calm, below proof that even in stillness, there is life. And as the light flickers across the planet's endless face, Jupiter reminds the stars around it that silence too can shine. Apidora. While Juno drifted above Jupiter, listening to the great giant's heartbeat, another traveler was already watching its sibling. Farther from the sun, wrapped in colder light and paler rings, Saturn turned in silence, graceful, distant, patient. Around it, the spacecraft Cassini traced slow spirals through the haze, recording whispers the planet never meant to share. For years, Cassini moved quietly through that golden space. It drifted past the rings like a moth through sunlight, collecting fragments of song, vibrations, ripples, the delicate quiver of gravity woven into Saturn's skin. The spacecraft was not searching for miracles. It was only listening the way one might listen to a sleeping child's breath. And in that listening, something familiar began to emerge. The signals Cassini gathered were soft, almost hesitant, but hidden within them was a rhythm that felt strangely known, an echo of the same song Juno had heard around Jupiter, the same blurred heartbeat, the same gentle confusion where science expected order. Saturn, too, it seemed, carried a heart without borders. For centuries, the two worlds had been seen as opposites. Jupiter, the stormbringer, loud and radiant. Saturn, the quiet dreamer, veiled in gold. One a king of thunder, the other a poet of rings. But Cassini's discoveries revealed something deeper, something tenderly alike. Beneath the clouds of both giants lay the same kind of heart, soft, diffused, without edges or certainty. They were not opposites at all. They were twins. When the data from Cassini's instruments returned home, it arrived not as revelation, but as recognition. The subtle oscillations in Saturn's rings spoke of movement deep within the waves, of a planet breathing in slow motion. Those waves carried traces of a fuzzy interior, just like Jupiter's, where heavy and light danced together in eternal suspension. The realization was gentle, almost poetic. The two great giants, siblings in orbit, sculpted from the same cosmic dust, shared the same mystery. Each held a heart that refused to harden, that preferred to blend instead of divide. Each was a monument to fluidity, to the art of becoming. Both giants, one scientist whispered softly as the data unfolded, share the same blurred heart. There was something profoundly human in that discovery, the feeling of finding kinship where one expected difference. Across the gulf of space, two worlds spun quietly, each carrying within it the same lesson that strength can be soft, that clarity can fade and still be beautiful. Cassini's cameras captured Saturn's serene face, the rings stretching outward like ripples on still water, the planet's shadows drifting slowly over them. But beneath that calm, there was motion, deep, unseen, and ancient. The waves inside Saturn rose and fell like thoughts shaping its rings into patterns that told the story of its inner rhythm. Those waves were its voice. Cassini listened, and humanity listened through it. The music of the rings, faint, as a sigh revealed that Saturn's core too was a haze, not a sphere of stone, but a mist of motion. It was a dream in slow rotation, mirroring the secret that Juno had already heard from Jupiter. Together, they told a new story, not of giants divided by space, but of twins bound by silence. Two worlds born of the same cloud, still breathing the same way after billions of years. One wrapped in storms, one wrapped in rings, but both carrying the same blurred heart, vast, soft, and patient. The discovery changed something subtle in the way humanity looked at them. No longer just symbols of power or beauty, they became reflections, reminders that even the mightiest beings in the cosmos carry softness within, that even a planet can be both storm and silence, both definition and blur. If Jupiter was the loud heartbeat of the solar system, then Saturn was the echo that answered it. One booming, one whispering, yet both keeping time with the same cosmic rhythm. Cassini continued its path for years, circling the quiet planet like a companion that refused to leave. It dipped between the rings, brushed the upper atmosphere, and listened one last time before descending into Saturn's clouds. Its final signals shimmered with calm acceptance, fading like a candle gently extinguished. In those last moments, the spacecraft seemed to merge with the planet it had loved, as though, like the worlds themselves, it too had learned the beauty of dissolving. The message it left behind was clear: the giants are not alone. They share more than mass, more than gravity. They share a memory of birth within mist of hearts that never stopped blending. And somewhere in that understanding, humanity felt a quiet awe. For the first time, we saw not just two planets, but a connection, a mirrored softness in the depths of both, as if the universe itself had written the same verse twice, just in different shades of gold. Cassini and Juno, two travelers, two listeners, had revealed what the cosmos had always known, that even across distance, kinship endures. Jupiter and Saturn, the storm and the ring, were siblings in silence, twins in time, two halves of one great breath. The data, the waves, the light all said the same thing. The giants were not separate, they were reflections. And as the last echoes of Cassini's journey faded into the vast quiet of space, it felt less like an ending and more like a reunion. The story did not stop with Saturn. As Cassini's voice fell silent and Juno continued to whisper, the same patterns began to appear elsewhere, in the light of exoplanets orbiting distant stars. The universe, it seemed, was repeating itself. The soft, borderless hearts of the giants were not rare, they were the rule. Across the cosmos, thousands of Jupiter-like worlds shimmered with the same gentle blur, each carrying within it the same quiet truth, that creation prefers harmony over order, and that even far away, the universe speaks in echoes. If both Jupiter and Saturn shared the same softened heart, then perhaps it was never an exception at all. Perhaps this was how all great planets were meant to be, not made in layers, but in gradients, not built with walls, but with whispers. In their cores, science found not division, but merging, a truth that felt less like discovery and more like recognition. The universe, it seems, does not favor boundaries. It favors transitions, the tender places where one thing becomes another, light fading into shadow, heat dissolving into cold, solid blending with air until the difference disappears. What we call blur, the cosmos calls balance. Everywhere we look, the pattern repeats. Galaxies spiral into darkness at their edges, stars pulse between birth and collapse. Dust drifts into flame, then back into dust again. Nothing ever stands apart for long. Everything leans towards something else, softening the space between what is and what will be. The universe does not draw lines, it paints gradients, and perhaps that is its quiet philosophy, that creation is not the act of separation, but of surrender, that to exist is not to define, but to dissolve just enough to belong. In the hearts of the giant planets, this truth is written in motion. Jupiter and Saturn, two vast beings turning in silence, carry the same blurred rhythm. They do not resist their nature, they flow. Inside them, metals mingle with gases, heat blends with gravity, and time stretches until moments lose their edges. Their cores are not places of certainty, but of peace. It is easy to imagine the universe as chaos, but perhaps it is only harmony we do not yet understand. Every collision, every blending, every slow transformation speaks the same language: coexistence. When matter meets matter, it does not fight, it learns to become something new. The giants are proof of this. They were born from clouds that refused to stay apart, from storms that did not destroy but combined. They remind us that clarity is not always truth, and that precision is not always wisdom. In their blurred hearts lies a kind of grace, a refusal to be simple, a willingness to stay open. Maybe the universe never intended for anything to be perfectly defined. Maybe it knew that the most beautiful things exist in between sound and silence, between form and formlessness, between light and dark. The line between them is not a wall, but a bridge, and across that bridge, everything travels. Look closely at Jupiter's clouds. There is no sharp border where one color ends and another begins. Every swirl is a story of blending. Every curve is a reminder that the universe thrives in in-between spaces. The same is true of Saturn's rings. Their edges are not edges at all, just layers fading into one another, like soft notes in a song. What if this is the true law of creation? Not perfection, but connection. Not definition, but unity. Even in human life, the same rhythm echoes. We are born from the merging of two cells, built from matter that once belonged to stars. Our thoughts blur into emotions. Our memories blend into dreams. We are never one thing. We are gradients of flesh and fire, of shadow and light. In the giants, we see ourselves vast and soft, uncertain, yet enduring. The universe is not teaching us to know. It is teaching us to feel, to accept that the lines we draw are temporary, that the edges we cling to are only illusions we create to feel safe in the infinite. The more we look outward, the more we realize how much of existence is made of overlap. Every atom is shared. Every force is intertwined. The space between things is not emptiness. It is relationship. The planets, the stars, the galaxies, they are all part of one slow, endless blending. The universe, in its patience, teaches us through blur. It asks us to loosen our definitions, to let understanding breathe. Because when everything is clear, nothing grows. But when things are soft, when they mix, when they flow, creation never ends. Perhaps that's why the hearts of Jupiter and Saturn remain hazy. They are not unfinished. They are eternal in their incompletion, a reminder that perfection lies not in clarity, but in the comfort of becoming. And if this is the law of blur, then it is not just a scientific truth, it is a cosmic kindness, a promise that nothing is ever truly alone, that all things meet somewhere in between. Even stars fade into space, and space glows faintly with their light. Even boundaries dissolve, but the essence remains. The universe never stops making connections. It just does so quietly, gently, like the slow turning of a planet beneath its clouds. Perhaps then, what we call blur is the universe's way of protecting beauty, keeping it soft enough to last. And as we learn from these giants, we begin to see our own reflection more clearly. We too are made of transitions. We too are still forming. Far beyond the rings and storms, the same truth begins to echo through the stars. The faint light from distant worlds carries whispers of blur atmospheres that glow unevenly, hearts that shimmer without edges. Across galaxies, the rule repeats. Clarity fades, harmony endures. Even light itself, when stretched across the vastness of time, softens into color, memory, and warmth. The universe, it seems, has never cared for perfection, only for the art of blending. Far above Jupiter's clouds, where the air thins into shadow and the storms dissolve into silence, something unseen begins to shimmer. It is not fire nor lightning, nor the reflected glow of the sun. It is the planet's own light, the breath of its invisible heart. From the haze of hydrogen and cloud, a magnetic pulse ripples outward, twisting through space like silk caught in wind. The field it creates is not perfect. It is uneven, bent, and strange. It curves and folds in ways that no human instrument had imagined, as though drawn by an artist whose hand trembles slightly, leaving beauty in imperfection. Lines of force stretch from pole to pole, but not in symmetry. They twist, dance, and shimmer like ribbons of living light. Each pulse carries the signature of the fuzzy heart below the blur that breathes not evenly, but with a rhythm of its own. The deeper Juno listened, the clearer this became. The magnetic field was not a machine's hum. It was a melody, soft and haunting, woven from the same uncertainty that shaped the planet itself. Where the fuzzy core once mixed metal and gas, now it mixed gravity and glow, creating a field that did not just protect Jupiter, it expressed it. It was as if the planet's very soul had found a way to sing. From afar, this magnetic storm paints the darkness with color. Waves of invisible energy crash against the thin upper atmosphere, awakening curtains of aurora that ripple across the poles. They do not flicker as Earth's lights do. They burn with persistence, bright, swirling, alive. They are rivers of electric blue veins of emerald and violet that pulse endlessly, tracing the planet's breath across the night. These are lights that never sleep. Each shimmer is a heartbeat, a sigh, a gesture. The auroras of Jupiter can stretch thousands of kilometers across, glowing with a power that would blind human eyes if seen up close. Yet even from afar, through the lenses of our telescopes, they move with a grace that feels almost human, like emotion rendered in light. The field itself is chaotic and tender. In some places, it is strong enough to pull matter into its orbit. In others, it fades into quiet, as if exhausted by its own beauty. It swells and contracts, constantly shifting, as though responding to the planet's inner thoughts. It does not obey the tidy geometry we once imagined. It curls like smoke folds, like fabric carries its imperfections like art. From the surface of one of Jupiter's moons, if anyone could stand there and look up, the sight would be endless. Great curtains of light unfurl across the void, flowing from the poles in slow, silent waves. They twist, merge, dissolve, their motion steady, patient, eternal. The dark space between them glows faintly, painted by the planet's unseen breath. It would not look like lightning or fire. It would look like thought, pure luminous thought, made visible. The fuzzy heart below that strange blurred core where everything mixes and becomes. One gives birth to these lights. Its uneven flow of energy creates magnetic tides that rise and fall like the inhale and exhale of a sleeping giant. The glow above is its whisper, a message to the stars saying, I am still here. I am still breathing. There is something deeply moving about that. This immense world, billions of years old, carrying chaos within, still finds a way to make beauty out of its imbalance. The irregularities of its heart do not weaken it. They make it alive. Its light is not constant, but that is what makes it beautiful. Like a soul's rhythm, steady but never perfect. Every pulse of that magnetic light tells a story of matter learning to feel, of chaos becoming grace, of a planet that refuses to be defined by order and instead finds harmony in motion. The auroras are not just the product of physics, they are the visual poetry of existence, color born from imperfection. And as the magnetic lines twist and spiral around Jupiter, they stretch farther than any other field in the solar system. They reach out into the dark, past the orbit of Saturn, brushing the edges of infinity. Even there, their energy hums faintly, a distant memory of the planet's inner song. In the great silence of space, Jupiter glows. Its poles burn with shifting halos. Its invisible field hums through the void, and its blurred heart continues to breathe. Light and magnetism, motion and stillness, all intertwined, all alive. Seen from afar, it looks peaceful, but up close, it is full of contradictions, fierce yet fragile, constant yet unpredictable. It is a reminder that even the most powerful things in the cosmos are imperfect, and that imperfection is what allows them to shine. The auroras will never end. They will continue to shimmer long after the storms fade and the planets grow cold. They are the signatures of memory, the living echoes of a heart that never found stillness and never wanted to. They remind us that beauty in the universe is not the absence of flaw, but the presence of rhythm. That light itself is the most patient language of all. Jupiter breathes. Its light bends, flickers, returns. And through that rhythm, the planet speaks not to us, but to the stars in a language made of color, energy, and time. The auroras dance on luminous and endless, tracing the invisible architecture of its heart. And so, the planet glows, not to be seen, but simply to exist, far above the poles where the auroras fade into the black. The light begins to thin. What remains is silence, soft, magnetic, eternal. The same stillness that sleeps beneath the storms now echoes in the empty space beyond, and as the lights flicker and vanish into shadow, they leave behind a lesson that will carry us onward, that even silence has a glow, and even in darkness, the universe remembers how to breathe. Far beyond our sun, past the gentle orbit of Saturn and the quiet trails of Neptune, there are other giants' worlds that circle stars we can barely see. They shimmer faintly in the darkness, each one carrying its own pulse, its own quiet storm, its own hidden blur. These are the hot Jupiter's planets, so close to their suns that their skies never darken, their clouds never rest, and their hearts glow with the heat of eternity. They are worlds of light and shadow, caught forever in a kind of luminous twilight. One side always faces the star, burning endlessly, while the other remains in night-cold, calm waiting. And yet deep inside, both sides share the same secret. Beneath their glowing atmospheres, beneath their rivers of gas and flame, there lies the same softness that we found in Jupiter and Saturn, a heart without borders, a soul made of blur. Perhaps they too are melting from within, not with fire, but with memory. Their cores dissolve gently into their outer layers, heavy elements drifting upward, light gases sinking down until nothing remains distinct. Everything blends. Everything becomes one. And in that slow merging, they keep their warmth as though refusing to let the universe grow cold. It is a strange kind of beauty, not the beauty of clarity, but of continuity. The hot Jupiters do not have clean lines or perfect edges. They are alive in their imperfection, glowing softly, breathing through time. From afar, they look like lanterns drifting in the cosmic dark, each carrying the faint pulse of a heart that never cools. If one could listen closely, perhaps they would sound like Jupiter, slow, deep, rhythmic, the hum of a giant that knows no end. The universe, vast and cold, is dotted with these glowing sentinels. Each one spins in silence, circling its star like a thought that refuses to fade. And maybe in their endless motion, there is something human. They are like souls that wander warm in one half, quiet in the other, searching for balance between chaos and calm. They live forever between fire and peace, and that in between is where their beauty lies. The fuzziness we once thought was an anomaly, a curiosity of Jupiter and Saturn, now reveals itself as something universal. Everywhere we look across distant systems, the same softness appears. It is as if the cosmos cannot help but blend things together, to let them overlap, to keep them from hardening into absolutes. The stars create their planets in the same way a painter blends light into shadow patiently, tenderly, without ever deciding where one should end and another should begin. The hot Jupiters shimmer because of this. They are not just bodies of gas and gravity. They are expressions of warmth. Their blurred hearts slow the flow of heat, holding it close, letting it leak out gently over billions of years. They glow not because of what they take from their stars, but because of what they still carry within the warmth of their own making. In this way, each planet becomes something more than a sphere of matter. Each becomes a soul glowing softly with memory, a being not defined by its structure, but by its endurance, by its ability to stay warm in the endless cold. Perhaps that is what the universe is full of, not lifeless rocks or perfect spheres, but hearts that still remember their beginnings, worlds that hum quietly, not out of purpose, but out of persistence. When astronomers gaze upon these distant orbs of fire and mist, they see more than light. They see time slowed, stretched, lingering. They see stories still unfolding. The fuzziness that fills them is not disorder. It is continuity, a sign that the act of creation never truly stopped, that even now these planets are still becoming, still blending, still breathing. And maybe that is why the stars seem to cradle them so gently. Every sun has its own family of worlds, each one glowing differently, each one shaped by the same quiet law. Nothing in the universe stays still, but nothing truly separates either. The fuzziness is the bridge, the place where everything meets. It is easy to imagine that the universe speaks through brilliance, but perhaps it whispers through blur. The slow dissolving of one thing into another is its favorite language. The glow of the hot Jupiters, the storms of Jupiter, the haze of Saturn, they are all verses of the same poem, recited in different tones of light. And as we look outward to stars, we will never reach the pattern keeps repeating. The fuzziness is not an accident. It is the universe remembering how to feel. Maybe every world has a heart like this one that does not divide one, that does not fade, one that knows how to hold warmth even in the darkest cold. Somewhere among those distant lights, another planet might be glowing right now, its blurred heart breathing softly beneath the weight of its own sky, a reminder that even far from home, the universe carries the same softness everywhere, the same patience, the same light. Everywhere we look, the giants breathe. Every world has its pulse, every planet a quiet soul. And in the stillness between stars, that shared heartbeat continues slow, tender, eternal. From those distant orbits, the light travels endlessly, crossing the darkness to reach us. It carries stories of warmth, of blending, of planets that never stopped forming. When it finally touches our telescopes, it is faint, stretched, almost forgotten, yet still glowing. That glow, born billions of years ago, reminds us that nothing truly disappears. Even light softened by time remembers where it came from. For centuries, humanity painted the universe in straight lines. We divided it into layers, categories, and rules. Everything had a border, a reason, a beginning, and an end. We believed the cosmos followed a clean geometry, that planets and stars were built in neat patterns like clockwork. But with every new discovery, the lines began to blur. The picture we once held so tightly of perfect spheres of clear cores and sharp transitions started to melt like ink touched by water. Jupiter and Saturn had already shown us that even giants could be soft. The distant exoplanets whispered the same truth, that nothing in the universe stays as the mind expects it to. And so slowly, our certainty dissolved. We once thought science was about drawing edges defining what is and what is not. But the universe teaches something gentler. It paints not with precision, but with patience. Every star, every planet, every atom exists within gradients one state, flowing quietly into another. There are no solid walls, only soft handshakes between one form and the next. We used to believe we could map everything, chart the solar system, like a sea name, each wave and boundary. Yet the closer we looked, the more elusive it became. Jupiter's heart refused to be measured. Saturn's rings whispered secrets that did not fit our models. Even the light from distant worlds bent itself in ways that broke our expectations. The universe was not lying to us. It was teaching us how to see again. We thought we knew it, but what we knew was only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more fluid. The old maps crumble, and in their place rises a new vision, not of lines, but of light, not of rigid laws, but of living movement. Once we thought the universe was made of clear boundaries, we might say now, but it is a watercolor painting, soft blended, always in motion. That realization is not defeat, it is release. The dissolving of certainty feels like the first breath after a long silence. The idea that not everything can be measured, that not everything should be, brings peace instead of fear. Because maybe the cosmos was never meant to be contained by equations alone. Maybe it was meant to be felt like a song or a dream. Science does not end where mystery begins. It grows there. Like roots reaching into soil, it finds nourishment in the unknown. Every new image, every unexpected result does not shatter the old story. It expands it, softens it, lets it breathe. When we let go of what we think we know, the universe becomes wider. It stops being a collection of facts and becomes a living presence, vast, changing kind. We begin to see not just planets and stars, but intentions. Not just structures, but gestures. Every movement of gas, every flicker of light becomes part of a larger, slower conversation. Perhaps this is what the cosmos has wanted all along, for us to stop measuring its perfection and start listening to its rhythm, to stop chasing control, and instead to participate in the dance. In the soft blur of Jupiter's heart, In the strange shapes of its magnetic field, in the faint glow of exoplanets burning close to alien suns, we see the same truth repeated: nothing stays still, and nothing is ever lost. The universe is not an equation, it is an unfolding. This realization humbles us. It strips away the illusion of mastery and replaces it with wonder. For the first time, perhaps, we do not look at the universe as something to solve, but as something to know, like a friend or a memory or a feeling that returns in quiet moments. The more we learn, the more we forget what we once thought was true. And in that forgetting, there is beauty. It is the kind of beauty that feels like freedom, the kind that makes space for awe to return. The boundaries fall away, and what remains is not chaos, but connection. The same field of motion that stirs within a gas giant also stirs within us. The same light that bends around Saturn's rings once touched our atoms long before we ever opened our eyes to see. When the old assumptions fade, what replaces them is not confusion, but clarity of a different kind, the clarity of acceptance. We no longer ask the universe to make sense according to our rules. We learn to follow its breath instead. And as the last lines of our old diagrams dissolve, a softer image takes shape, one that does not try to capture the universe, but to feel its movement. We see it not as something we must understand, but something we are part of. Maybe that is the truest kind of knowledge, not knowing everything, but knowing we belong. In this new vision, Jupiter is not a puzzle to be solved, nor Saturn a problem to be mapped. They are teachers. They show us how creation flows, how boundaries are illusions, how life itself, in all its forms, thrives in the blur between what was and what will be. And so the old assumptions fade quietly, like footprints washed by a tide. What remains is openness, a gentle surrender to the infinite. As our certainty dissolves, something else begins to emerge, a deeper understanding of time itself. The universe, it seems, does not rush. It lets its truths unfold slowly, like ripples across dark water, in Jupiter's storms and Saturn's rings, in the silent motion of distant worlds. Time works softly, patiently, shaping everything without sound. The same calm rhythm that erased our old maps now begins to reveal a new one, not drawn in lines, but in moments, stitched together by the quiet pulse of eternity. At the end of its long and patient journey, the little spacecraft named Juno faced the horizon it was born to meet. For years, it had circled Jupiter, tracing invisible lines through magnetic storms, listening to whispers that no ear had ever heard. It had danced with a giant, studying every breath, every flicker, every trembling heartbeat beneath the clouds. But now its path curved inward toward the planet's endless night. There was no applause, no countdown, no sound, just silence and the slow turning of a world so vast that even light seemed to hesitate. Juno had done all it could. Every image, every pulse of data had already been sent home, carrying the story of Jupiter's soft heart across the emptiness between worlds. Now, it was time to return that story, not through distance, but through surrender. The spacecraft drifted closer, its panels trembling in the growing pull of gravity. Below it, Jupiter stretched out like an ocean, made of clouds, its colors deepening into shades of bronze and wine. Lightning flashed somewhere within the storms, brief and beautiful, like a heartbeat made of light. As Juno fell, The planet seemed to open, not as a threat, but as an embrace. The lines of the magnetic field, the same ones it had studied for so long, began to wrap around it like strands of invisible silk. The machine was no longer an observer. It had become part of the story. The little ship dives into darkness to send back light. That was how the mission would be remembered, not as an ending, but as a transformation. Juno's fall was not destruction, it was communion. It carried humanity's curiosity into the very thing it sought to understand, offering itself as the final bridge between knowing and being. In its last moments, the spacecraft was weightless in the storm. Its sensors still flickered, its instruments still whispered. For a few seconds more, it continued to send signals, faint, fragile, but full of meaning. Then the clouds closed around it. The noise of the universe softened. The line went silent, yet that silence did not feel like loss. It felt like arrival. Juno had not vanished. It had dissolved. Its metal body became part of the atmosphere it had studied. Its energy became warmth in Jupiter's winds. Its path became memory, a line drawn not in orbit but in light. The little ship had fallen into the planet's heart, and there it joined the same blur that had always been Jupiter's secret. Above the storms, Earth waited. The signals that Juno had sent before its final descent continued to travel faint but faithful across the distance between worlds. They carried with them not just information, but emotion. The quiet pride of a mission completed the tenderness of farewell. In that moment, it was hard not to imagine Juno as something more than metal and code. It had watched a giant breathe, it had measured the rhythm of eternity, and now, like a final note fading into a song, it had become part of the music itself. Every journey, no matter how vast, must end where it began in wonder. As Jupiter turned, its storms continued to spin. The auroras still shimmered at its poles. The planet did not mourn. It simply continued carrying within its atmosphere the remnants of the little ship that once listened to its heartbeat. From afar, it was a poetic image, one small creation vanishing into a larger one, one question melting into its answer. Juno's descent was not tragedy, it was trust, a gesture of belief that knowledge once given does not die. It changes form like light, bending through clouds, like dust, becoming stars. Even as its signal faded, the spacecraft left something behind that no storm could erase, the understanding that Jupiter was not chaos, but calm in disguise, that beneath the blur, there was harmony, that even giants could hold gentleness in their hearts. And perhaps in the last instant, before it vanished, Juno saw what no one else ever would, the soft glow inside Jupiter's endless depth, the place where gravity and light become one. Maybe for a breath of time too short to measure, it saw the universe as it truly is, not violent, not cold, but infinite in its quietness. Then it was gone. But its journey did not end there. The light it sent, the data it carried, continued to ripple outward waves of understanding, crossing space, touching minds, inspiring new dreams. Every discovery that followed would carry a trace of Juno's flight, a memory of the little ship that gave itself to the unknown. In its fall, it found meaning. In its silence, it spoke. The universe once again reminded us that endings are only transformations in slow motion, a continuation disguised as goodbye. And so, as the storms of Jupiter swirled and the auroras burned their eternal flame, Juno became part of the planet it loved, a fragment of human wonder folded into a giant's heart. In the vast stillness that followed, the stars shimmered a little brighter, as if remembering the path of that small, brave traveler. Somewhere beyond the orbit of Jupiter, the echoes of Juno's journey fade into the quiet of space. The planet turns slowly, its storms breathing in rhythm with eternity. The universe too exhales, a long, soft sigh that fills the void with calm. And in that stillness, something gentle begins to settle, the understanding that nothing is ever truly lost. Even when the light fades, even when the noise is gone, the cosmos remembers. It closes its eyes not to sleep, but to dream again. In the quiet that follows every discovery, there is always a pause, a breath the universe seems to take before it begins again. The storms fade, the instruments go silent, the light from distant worlds travels onward, slower now, softer. It is not an ending, but a resting. The cosmos, vast and unending, does not die. It only exhales. Jupiter turns slowly beneath the stars, its clouds folding into one another like the pages of a dream. The great red storm continues, its ancient spin patient and eternal, while far above the auroras shimmer soft ribbons of light that never sleep. To watch them is to see the planet breathing. They flicker gently, then fade, then return, like the pulse of something that remembers. The universe has always known how to rest without ceasing, how to dream without closing its eyes. Every planet, every star, every drifting particle of dust, they all carry the same rhythm, a quiet persistence, a willingness to keep glowing even when no one is watching. Jupiter has not fallen asleep. It is simply dreaming. Its heart, that blurred and borderless core, still beats slow, deep, endless. Inside, the heavy and the light continue to mingle, to merge, to become one. It is a place where gravity sings in silence, where warmth moves without sound. The planet's storms may rage, but deep beneath them lies stillness, the same kind that lives in every living thing. And perhaps that is the secret the cosmos has been trying to tell us all along, that rest is not the opposite of motion, and silence is not the absence of sound. They are the spaces that make everything else possible. The pause between two notes, the darkness between two stars. In that space, the universe dreams of itself. It dreams of the moments that have passed, of dust turning into worlds of chaos, finding harmony, of a small blue planet learning to look upward. It dreams of creation, not as a burst of light, but as a long and gentle unfolding, still happening even now. The auroras above Jupiter glow like the echoes of those dreams. They curve around the poles, shimmering in green and violet, tracing invisible paths through the night. They are the soft laughter of a planet that never truly stopped becoming. They hum quietly, the same melody that stars once sang at their birth. If you could stand beneath that light, you would feel it in your bones, a low vibration, ancient and kind. You would realize that the universe is not a machine, but a living thing. It breathes, it feels, it remembers. And within you too, there is a blur, a soft heart that holds everything together. A place where the heavy and the light coexist, where thought and feeling meet, where the chaos of life dissolves into something tender. We are made of the same elements as the planets, the same dust as the stars. The same balance that keeps Jupiter whole keeps us alive. Perhaps that is why we look to the sky, not to escape, but to remember Every light we see above us is a reflection of something we already carry within a memory of belonging. The universe is not out there, it is here, pulsing quietly behind our ribs. And when the storms of our own lives grow loud, when everything feels scattered and uncertain, we can think of Jupiter, calm beneath the chaos, luminous beneath the dark. Its heart remains soft. Its storms, no matter how fierce, always return to stillness. Jupiter dreams so that we may remember how to rest. In its endless turning, in its flickering lights, it teaches us that endings are not loss, but transformation. That every fall becomes part of the cycle, every silence part of the song. The universe does not sleep. It listens. It waits for us to listen back. And when we do, when we finally sit still, enough to hear the quiet hum that runs through everything, we will realize that it has been whispering to us all along, that even in the spaces between stars there is warmth, that even in darkness there is light. The auroras above Jupiter fade into the black, their glow sinking softly into memory. The storms continue their eternal waltz. Somewhere the faint echo of Juno's last transmission drifts across the void, a final heartbeat carried on waves of light. Everything rests, but nothing ends. The universe closes its eyes, not to vanish but to dream anew. It dreams in colors and whispers, in the slow rhythm of planets turning. It dreams of what it has created and of what it will become. And as we watch from our small, fragile world, we too begin to dream with it. We too close our eyes not in sleep, but in surrender to the infinite. The light from Jupiter's auroras lingers a moment longer, glowing faintly in the dark, like the last breath of a song. Then it fades, leaving behind only quiet, a quiet filled with meaning, a quiet that feels like peace, a quiet that hums soft eternal as the universe exhales and dreams again. And so, the story closes, not with a period, but with a breath. For in every grain of dust, every dream, every small soul that looks to the stars, the universe continues to tell its tale. A tale with no beginning, no ending, only a whisper that echoes forever through the night I never left. I am only sleeping,